Vayetzei, Parashat Vayetzei, fantastic parasha. And in this week's parasha, we really have the foundation and the root of Am Yisrael being forming as a nation. And it's in here. The essence of Am Yisrael is actually being determined here, and that is. We're talking about the birth of the Shvatim, most of them, besides Binyamin, is going to be born next week. But it's something very important. It's very important to the location of where did it happen. The formation of Am Yisrael in terms of being created really happened outside of Israel. You would think that it would happen in the land of Israel, but it really happened outside of the land of Israel. It's quite perplexing. Why is that? I mean, we should have done it, everything in Israel and so on and so forth. And outside of Israel means what it is for us, exile. So maybe it has to do with the fact that Yaakov was able to overcome all his difficulties and so on and so forth, and therefore he would be merited to be called by the name of Israel. Even though he did so, we do know that the name Yaakov was never uprooted. It wasn't anymore, only Israel. It was Israel and Yaakov. It depends what it is. The Torah tells us that the usage of the name Yaakov really refers to the external dimension of him, and as such, the name, that refers to basically outside of Israel, and the name Israel, which refers to the internal, is really on the way to the land when we hopefully become what is called Goy Echad Ba'aretz, one nation, under God. So. Am Yisrael, if you look historically wise at Am Yisrael lives most of its existence as a nation in exile outside of Israel. Now of course that there's no such thing as it just so happens and so on and so forth. We'll try to graduate out of that attitude, and we'll try to see what really has what we can learn from that. And one of the biggest secrets of the continuation of Am Yisrael and the existence of Am Yisrael, regardless of being in exile, because I don't think that there is another nation in human history that lives so much outside of its homeland and yet kept and maintained its identity and allowed it to flourish. There hasn't been one like that. And we should not take it for granted, by the way. There is a great danger in being in exile, what we call exile tendencies of not taking, not becoming your own man and taking things to your own matters and always being under the master and whatever it is. That really pulls us in a way that the external influence really puts us in a negative way, pulls us down. And many times we think it's a good thing, being cosmopolitan, being universal, thinks us that we are citizens of the world, right, as they say. And it's a good thing to be the citizen of the world without even associating yourself with a specific place. And I saw what happened in this past election regarding, it's something that has been going on for years now. The separation of American Jews, for example, from the land of Israel. They're not necessarily concerned about that much, and that is very sad. You need to remember who you are, what you are as a Jew, and do what necessarily in your power to maintain the well-being of your people, regardless of where they are. It doesn't mean you cannot be a good American citizen or French citizen or anything of that sort. But you need to do whatever you can, when you can, to do something for your people. And today there's a complete disconnect between American Jewry, to most part, to what is actually happened with not only the state of Israel in terms of that, but rather the fate of the Jews in Israel. By the way, this shiur is Leilui Nishmat Simcha Bat Bracha. Ben Bracha. So, growing without roots, without a specific, identity and meaning could really pull you down, and you're simply going to get lost. And we're going to get lost, and so on and so forth. You become a part of the scenery. And you forget who you are. And we've seen it all along through history how we completely disappeared in terms of that. But on a positive manner, it's good that we are outside of Israel. And I think there is a good reason, not only a bad reason, why most of the existence of Am Yisrael are among the nations, not completely separated. There is a good reason, believe it or not. And that's what we need to find in order to really utilize it and to put it into action. That's what we're trying to see. Like, for example, when Yosef wanted to bring the light of the nations, or the light of the Jews to the nations, right? And to be like stars in the, he wanted to bring his brothers there so people would see, what's going on, how good it will be when the Jews are there and Egypt really flourished, right? To be almost like shining stars in the darkness of Egypt or in the darkness of night, which is similar, the same thing, and really flourish the place and to give hope and so on and so forth. Exile, in a way, is something that belongs to the nations, because since the time of the Tower of Babel, the nations are separated and spread out all over the world. And that gives the Jewish nation an opportunity to be even more unique in terms of the sensation of belonging to one another and caring about one another. So if, God forbid, something is happening in Australia, the Jew in Finland should feel something also is happening to him. And that should be an example that we should give to the people. And I'm not quite sure that we understand that. That's why many times we fail on that mission as well. So when Yaakov, for example, goes on his way, he goes to what is so-called a specific mountain, which is Har HaMoriah, where the Temple Mount is. For those of you who forgot, right? In order, and there is a reason for that. And the main reason for that is to basically go through a certain process in order to protect him. He goes into almost like a sterile place that is going to help him deal with those people that he's going to deal with, which were quite wicked. And he needs to go through this process that is happening over there. In a place that it goes to, that lying is the number one commodity, you got to be very well equipped to deal with something like that. That's why, by the way, when you have people that are chronic liars, you got to do something about it. You got to do something very, very, specific about this thing, or with society, or with events, and so on and so forth. So in order to do it, what he's doing is going to that place, to this special sterile place, and he needs to remove from himself anything that would allow such attitude, such behavior, such lies, and clinch into him. He needs to clean himself out. It's the same thing when you walk into a hospital. Sometimes in the room they have pressurizing gap in the door, that if you walk in, the difference in pressure creates a sterile environment. So he, in a way, goes there in order to be prepared to go to the Temple Mount. To go to Lavan, he goes to the Temple Mount. It seems that, and the truth of the matter is that it seems that through all the years that he was there, didn't really had an effect on him, and he was able to do it. And so therefore, after the dream that he had he dreamt about the ladder, and it says the following: Vayaketz Yaakov Mishnato, and Yaakov woke up from his sleep or slumber. But we call it Mishnato, right? So Baal HaTurim says the following. He says Mishnato, not from his sleep. Lishon is, but it says it could be Mishenato, but Mishnato, right? It says Mishnato, Shaya Hoge Batorah Yomam Valayla. Yaakov Avinu was not sleeping. He didn't take a little nap over there. I mean, you're coming to the Temple Mount, you're taking a nap. I mean, it's the first time, by the way, we find anybody sleeping anywhere in the Torah. Is Yaakov Avinu taking a nap there? I mean, what is this? So Yaakov Avinu was learning all the time, was absolutely learning day and night. So Mishnato and Mishnah of his Mishnah and his Shana is basically the same thing. So it says he would not only, so yes, he slept there and because he woke up, but the thing with Yaakov Avinu, he would learn Torah also while he was sleeping. Yaakov Avinu learned Torah while he was sleeping, and we all know the Mishnah is the same letters of Neshama. So the Mekubalim tell us something wonderful. They give us a tremendous remez in that matter. And it says that the wonder that happened to Yaakov Avinu while he was asleep, that he was able to undress and to disconnect his neshama from his body. He was able to create a complete separation. In other words, he was taking up anything that is materialistic and anything that is materialistic in nature or need from himself, from his existence, and is becoming completely spiritual. So therefore, there is another thing that you should be very careful, you should be aware, when you're going to a place, when people are wheeling and dealing all the time, and they're a bunch of liars and so on and so forth, become more spiritual, become less materialistic, because these are the things that catch you on. These are the fibers that you hold on to, or they come to you and you can't separate it. And then it's like tearing out of raw flesh out of your body. So if you're in a society like this, maybe you should take some kind of an inventory of where are you holding in terms of spirituality and physicality. So that's what Yaakov Avinu was doing. And by the way, you cannot do that by smoking a joint. You cannot do that by getting drunk. You cannot do all these things, but taking a meditation course in meditation, in transcendental meditation, or whatever that is. The only way to do so is basically learn Torah. Because as you see, the Mishnah and Shana and the Shama is all the same thing. That will give you a certain azimuth in terms of where you need to be or what you need to do. Otherwise, you're completely lost. So therefore, when people, that's why the Torah was so, the Midrash tells us, when it says not to make the Torah as a vehicle to use your own purposes, lo la'asot b'Torah kardom lachpor ba, the earth shook 400 amot. Because that's very bad. Therefore, if you want to learn, you're going to learn. But don't use your Torah for your own benefits, to promote your own ideas, to promote yourself, and so on and so forth. This is not about becoming, chief rabbi and so on and so forth. It's about doing what needs to be done, becoming more spiritual, because we live in a world like that. So one of the things we need to do, and we all need to do that, is to simply learn more. And we need to understand that. We don't learn enough. There's a lot of learning. We don't learn enough. Everybody wants to pay lip service. We need more shiurim. We need more this. We need more that. Baloney. Come to learn. Let's see you. Come to learn. Don't send me, bring me the rabbi, then I come. Come to learn. What do they say? When the student is ready, when the student is ready, the master will come, right? Show you're ready. Come to learn. Because you're going to get lost. You're simply going to get swallowed. Now what happens is when Yaakov Avinu was able to do so, what we call right? To simply erase and dismantle anything physical from you, he reached a tremendous level of spiritual wholeness. And Yaakov Avinu was able to do so, because if not, he's not going to be able to deal with whatever is the future holding for him in terms of going to Lavan's place, that everything there is all about deceiving and lying and stealing and cheating and so on and so forth. How are you going to deal with that? So that's how you deal with this. So when you do so, how does it work? That there's no more, you don't identify yourself with materialism. You don't identify yourself with objects. In other words, you don't define yourself by the objects you have. So if you drive this kind of car or that kind of car, it doesn't make you less of a man or more of a man. Those things don't count. if you live in this kind of house or that kind of house. Those things don't count. Objects don't define yourself. If objects define yourself, you've got a problem. Come and see me later on. You got a problem. You got a huge problem. That's why it doesn't make a difference if you're a rabbi of a shul of 1,000 people or a rabbi of a shul of 20 people. It's what you do with those people. Those things don't make you a better rabbi if you have 1,000 people or less than that. It's what you do. It's to get down to work. And we need to understand that. So the whole process of definition plays a big role here. Who you are, what you are. We forget that we are Jews and we have a job here to do. We are not here to compete with the nations. Who's going to have more influence? Who's going to have more money? This is not our job. And when we do that, we fail. And when we fail, they remind us. Believe me, they remind us that we are failing on our jobs. So, and we know that, it seems like it takes forever. The whole story. Lavan is cheating, Yaakov is giving him Leah, and so on and so forth. He makes him work 7 more years, and then for him it's like a night, like a day, whatever it is. But it's fine. It's fine. Yaakov Avinu, how is it fine? Because Yaakov Avinu is attached. We use the words dvekut, is attached to the purpose of what he was doing. We call it tachlit. In other words, he saw what it is. When there is a purpose in your life, it doesn't make a difference how much effort you put in. You need to have a purpose in life. And when you don't have it, you're simply lost. It seems forever. Life is a drag. But for him, it was nothing because there was a meaning. There was a purpose for what he was doing. So let's try to go just a little bit deeper into this whole concept of being whole, of this wholeness of Yaakov Avinu, and what is the purpose and what's the reason in what we call Avodat Hashem. What's the purpose of that? So the parasha, it says Parashat Vayetzei, and we already learned in Parashat Kitetse, right? The Lishon Yetziyah, the words of coming out, really refers of something spiritual that is great. It's coming from one stage to another, coming up almost like birth, coming out to this world. It's also the what we have to in terms of our reference, in terms of where Yaakov Avinu is going and is coming in. Is going from a spiritual world of being Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim into the world of action, into the world that is outside, what's called the big world, and so on and so forth. He's going out of Eretz Israel, he's going out of his parents' house to a journey that is going to take a long time, and in their journey he's going to suffer, it's going to be hard, and they're going to cheat him, and his test is not if he's going to become a billionaire, if he's going to stay as pure as he was. And that, in a way, the journey of Yaakov Avinu is the journey that Am Yisrael will have to go throughout the generations, and this is the test. If we're going to wear the badge of Am Yisrael, and that's what we are called, Am Yisrael, we need to make sure that throughout their journey, we're going to say as pure as we came in. And that's Vayetzei, like we call it Yetziat Mitzrayim, Kana Mitzrayim. So Kabbalistically speaking, it's going from the place of the klipot, of the husk, of the tum'ah, of the impurity, going to a different place, and for that you need to have perfection. You need to be whole. You cannot do so when you are spread out and you are not with all your power together. You need to be able to deliver a punch straight through it. Otherwise, it's not going to go. It's simply not going to happen. As much as a baby, when he's about to come out from his mother's womb, he has to go through the birth canal. He doesn't all of a sudden decide to come from her neck or from her throat or whatever it is. It has to come through the birth canal. This same thing with us. It has to be a focused effort to be able to go through it, to plow through it. And that's Yetziat HaNeshama Mimekom HaKlipot. Taking to something that is pure, bringing it about from the place of impurity to the place of purity. Bringing it to the light of the world. And when the first thing the baby sees when he comes out, he sees the light. And that's something for us as well. So it's very interesting if you're going to look at what Rav Dessler says about this parasha. It says the following, and I'm quoting: "Hashlemut hi ha'achdut ha'adam hanovat mitokef midat ha'emet." Being whole is the unity and the perfection that comes out with the magnitude of truth within you. How truthful are you going to be? That will determine how whole you would be. Because there's only one truth. There's no such thing as half a truth, a quarter of the truth. There's no such thing as a white lie, as a gray lie, a pink lie, a rainbow lie. A lie is a lie, and the truth is the truth. The truth is only one. So how whole you're going to be, how solid you're going to be, will be determined on your commitment to the truth. Are you a truthful person, yes or no? And that's something that we know, and we know this all the time. When the Torah tells us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Emet, God is the truth, His seal is the truth, His Torah is the truth. It all has to be about that. You can't be twisting around. If somebody's doing something wrong, you gotta tell them. I didn't say, smash him over the head and, whip him. Tell him the truth. Say, listen, you messed up. That's how it needs to be done. Don't just leave him hanging, guide him. But don't tell him it's okay. I understand why you did so. That's leaving for your psychology. If you want to become a psychologist and make some money out of people's misery, go ahead and do that. I understand why you became such a doofus because your mother winged you when you were 6 months old and you feel some unresolved issue. That's very nice, but it doesn't do the truth. Truth is that you have a choice. And we have a choice and we need to realize that. There's a big difference between this and that. Right, psychologist? So, Rav Dessler says the following. Midato shel Yaakov Avinu midat haemet. That's the truth. The middle path. The kav mechaber, the connecting line between chesed and gvura, between kindness and heroism. So therefore you learn from here also, you need something to connect, otherwise it's two different things and one will overpower the other. In other words, that's the harmonious line with the greater area. Not too much to here, not too much to there, right in the middle, that connects both of them together. And it's not that you're trying to overpower, you're trying to bring everything together. You're creating peace within kindness, within chesed and gvura. You're creating the harmony together. And that's what we need to do. And when you do so, how that midah is called? It's called tiferet. What's tiferet?
Beauty.
What?
Beauty.
Lo shomea.
Beauty.
Beauty? Tiferet, no, not beauty.
Glory.
Glory. Something to be proud of. Lehitpaer, I'm very proud of you. That's tiferet. When we do that, when we're able to create harmony, we bring pride to this world. To whom? To Ribbono Shel Olam. So in a way, the glory of Hashem is being handed out to us, and that became our responsibility. And we have the tools to do it. And how much of your action is actually directed towards making Hashem's name great on the land? How much? Are you worrying about yourself only? About what you feel? I'm sorry, I can't do this, it's not for me. That's good for you. You want to keep Shabbat, not for me, and so on and so forth. That's baloney. You're going to be asked, why didn't you do things in this world to bring pride to God? They're not going to ask you how much money you made, how weasel you were. They're going to ask you, were you a truthful person? Did you believe in God? Did you said, as we say, that's what it says. Lamata kavata itim la Torah. Because you're going to learn Torah, you're going to learn the truth. After you do that, nasata v'natata be'emunah, were you a truthful person? In other words, were you able to execute from stage 1 to stage 2? So don't think that it's all about how much money you're going to make. Where in the world are you going with all your money? Nowhere. But the legacy that you're going to leave behind you is your actions, not your money, not your bank account. That is going to get spread between the government and everybody else in your family. You're not going to get any with it. Were you a good person? Were you a bad person? What do you leave at the end? That's why you cannot have businesses run on Shabbat. But because what are you saying here? So that's more important to you than the glory of God? It's not about you. Nothing in this world is about us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to us in our hand. He said, here's my crown in your hand. You're going to take care of it. And what we do with it? We throw it on the floor. We give it to some goy to handle it. It's ridiculous. Our attitude stinks. We got to put an end to it. We got to put an end to it. Rav Dessler continues, and he says, Ha'isha Shalem, the whole man, the complete man, אינו מבחין בכל המידות ובכל ההתעוררויות של הרי שערה כולן. He doesn't pay attention to Vayetzei. Oh, a person says, oh, I feel like eating a little shrimp today. Oh, don't let me just try to satisfy my... He doesn't pay attention to what this thing comes. It has no effect on him. He can reach such a level, as we say in the Gemara, Chachamim can go into the lowest of all places and just be okay, nothing to do with me. You reach a certain level of wholeness, so the Yetzer Hara, all these temptations that we all feel, that we all struggle with, have no effect on you whatsoever. It's like looking at trees, instead of looking at women, you gotta look at trees. The same thing. That's a certain level of shlemut. You don't get all distracted, because all it is, there's so many distractions in the world, it's crazy. That's when we can't get anything done. We jump from one another, we have a spiritual ADD. Hopping from one place to another, and along the line, we always blame somebody else. And then if we're not going to blame somebody else, we're going to blame the person who's on. He's too boring. He's not for me. He's too radical. And you're too stupid. Sorry to tell you that. That's the bottom line. So, what does the Isha Shalem pays attention to? Rav Dessler says, but rather, he pays attention to whatever he can serve God with. He says, even the Yetzer Hara are vessels in which you could take and hinge them towards Avodat Hashem. Even that. It says, and he does this in such a way, שלא תשתייר בו אפילו נקודה אחת לרשות אחרת. Everything that he does, all his entity, all his power, everything is being directed for one goal and one goal only, and that is to serve God. Everything. He's utilizing everything. And many times we heard, we hear many times the rabbis say, you should not say something, and I tell you this also many times. Oh, it's not me, Rabbi, it's the Yetzer Hara caused me that. Excuse me, who's the Yetzer Hara? Please bring your Yetzer Hara here. Let's talk to him. Who is the Yetzer Hara? Balordi, it's you. You should take responsibility. We talked about today, when you're becoming your own man, one of the things to do is to take responsibility. You messed up. Be a man and say, I'm sorry, I messed up. So don't say it's the Yetzer Hara did it to me. Because not only that it's not good and you're never going to achieve anything, by saying so, you give authority in a way and recognition to the Yetzer Hara. You entitle him, not that he has power, but in your eyes, that tum'ah, that Yetzer Hara has power. And by you doing so, you in a way shooting yourself in the leg and saying, I can't run. You know why I can't run? Because I just shot myself in the leg. Because the Yetzer Hara is greater than me. That's why I'm exempt of doing anything. That's not acceptable when you're a person who wants to achieve and do things. Then you're never going to reach any perfection, any wholeness in such a manner. The Yetzer Hara is not, don't think like a Christian. The Christians think the following. They say there is good and there is evil, and they're always in a struggle between the two. They're going to have an Armageddon, and they're going to have a UFC match between the evil and the good. That's nonsense. That's a way to escape of taking responsibility for yourself. That doesn't work like that, Rabotai. You need to understand one thing and one thing only. That even if you do have a Yetzer Hara, that is also a messenger. You should be able to tie it to do your will, to do Avodat Hashem. That's why the highest level in our Avodah is not denial or oppression of our feelings and so on and so forth, but rather admitting. It's not about pushing things away and isolating ourselves in a ghetto and denying our urges and denying our desires. On the contrary, we acknowledge this and we say there is a desire, there is an urge, but I'm going to, instead of it running my life, I'm going to make it work for me. Instead of me working for it, I'm going to make it work for me. And I'm going to pull it to the side who does well, to the side who is good. I'm not running away from anything. I'm not sweeping anything under the carpet, because from all the stuff that you shoved under the carpet, at the end you need a 4x4 to do like overlanding over mounds like this, that you need special tires and rig for your car. This thing is not only a pile, it's a mountain that you have there from all the stuff that you put under the carpet. It's enough already. So take the carpet out, sweep it all out, put everything back in place, and that's the bottom line. And we need to understand those things. We need to understand it. And when a person does it like this, he has an it'orut. He is awake. All of a sudden, he can take the Yetzer Hara and make it also a messenger for the good. He calls him and says, "Habibi Yetzer Hara, go work hard on yourself. Go fix yourself up." And how you do so? You do so by doing so like that. You make it in unity. You create a unity. And how do you do it? By having simple as that. And then that's what we say always. That's what the Ramah says, that it's klal gadol be'avodat Hashem. Shiviti Hashem lenegen egdai tamid. Anything that you do, you're going to think about, let's say you're about to do something bad. You're about to do something bad. You're going to think about the Father. You're going to stand in front of God and you're going to tell him, God is going to ask you, what'd you do that for? If you're going to contemplate on the fact of that there is a God, and one day are you going to give him an account for why you did what you did, I'm guaranteeing to you, you're not going to be doing it. That's for sure. You think that nobody sees you. You think you're not going to get caught. If you know that you're going to be seen and you're going to be caught, you're going to steal. Of course not. What do you think? You're going to get away from God? God is not some kind of an old guy with a long beard driving a sled with the high hole, doing whatever it is they're doing. You can't escape from that. That's for little kids, but not for us. Now, there is a wonderful pasuk, and that's something that, again, we need to understand. And that's the whole remez of Achdut. There's a wonderful, wonderful perush of the pasuk that says the following. On Parashat Bereshit, it says the following, and we never pay attention. Michol etz agan achol tochlu. In other words, you can eat and feel free to eat from any tree in the garden. God is telling Adam HaRishon, you can eat from any tree in the garden. But when we say mikol, what does it include? Everything, including Etz Hadat. You're right. Including Etz Hadat. But it says, u'me'etz hadat tov ve'ra lo tochal mimeno. You're not going to eat from it. So one second, I don't understand. You told me I can eat from all the fruit of the garden. Everyone, mikol. And only from this, I cannot eat from it? So, the way to look at it is like this. You are allowed to eat from any fruit or from any tree that is in the garden, including Etz Hadat. But from Etz Hadat alone, without eating the rest of it, you cannot eat. When you're going to only eat that you can. You can eat from everything together, b'shituf. In other words, even if you're going to take, when did Adam HaRishon actually get the Yetzer Hara? When he ate from Etz Hadat. So when you're going to eat it and only going to operate like this, that's not good. It's going to corrupt Peru. You have to include everything together. Therefore, if Yetzer Hara is also included within Yetzer HaTov, there is a way you're allowed to eat it. But to eat it by itself, without combination of other stuff, it's not good. It's like, for example, I'm going to tell you the following. Are you hungry? And you're going to tell me, yes, I'm hungry. I said, good. I have now for you, sriracha, that hot sauce, and just like go like this and just put it in. Oh, wait. What are you crazy? I can't do it. It's going to hurt my stomach. I'm going to have acid reflux, I can eat a little bit if you put on fish or something. That with something else. That's exactly the example of that. You can eat it with something else. In other words, to create a form of unity, you could also take the Yetzer Hara together with that. In other words, you don't separate it from as an entity by itself, but rather you're putting in together. You can't disconnect with it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put it, implanted within us. It's in our program to do it. You can't disconnect from it. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu put it there, and we know that everything that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu is for the good, therefore I need to take that and utilize it for a good, in a good way as well. And if you want to know where the Perush is in Ta'anei HaMitzvot to the Radbaz. Look over there, and that's what it explains over there. So the fact that the person, what we call Adam HaShalem, includes also the avodah of the Yetzer Tov or Yetzer Ra, right? So let's see exactly what is the avodah that a person needs to do. And maybe we can understand why did Yaakov Avinu went to Haran altogether. Why is the neshama coming out to this world at the beginning, altogether? So we know that the beginning of creation, B'tchilat HaBriyah, when the world was created, there was one so-called Shvirat HaKilim, the breakage of the vessels. The vessels were too great to hold the light that came in them, and they simply shattered, right? So, in that matter, now all those fragments and remnants of those vessels got spread up all over the world, and that's why the Mekubalim tells us, even if there is something that it seems to us that is bad in the world, there is a good spark in it. In other words, and this is our job, to find what is good in everything, including with what is bad. Including what is bad. There is good. There's no such thing in the views of Judaism that evil exists itself by itself as an entity. That bad exists by itself as an entity. Bad is in a way a leash for the good. So if it's over, so then now you need to see either it's overpowering, it's around and the core is good, or there's good with a little bad. I had to say it, the yin and the yang, whatever you want to call this thing. There is good though in everything. Even in the darkest things, something good comes out. Our job is to basically find it. So Adam HaRishon, right? We had the Shin Chaf Nitzotzot. Shin Chaf is how much? 320 holy sparks of his neshama that fell into the section of the klipot, into our world. That's what the Mekubalim says, that we need to find this, and that's what we need to do mitzvot, and that's why we need to say brachot. We elevate whatever we do from something mundane into something that is spiritual with a meaning to it. I'm not just eating like an animal, I'm eating with a bracha, I'm elevating it, I'm elevating everything in it to a higher level. It becomes a part of me. I learn Torah, and so on and so forth. So even if it's something so meaningless, I have the ability to elevate it up. Going back to Rav Dessler says the following, and I'm quoting, Matarat HaBriyah, the whole purpose of creation, Igilui Kvod Malchuto Shel Hashem Yitbarach, to be able to reveal the glory of God in this world. That's the whole purpose of creation. Gilui Or Shel HaBorei LaNivraim, the revelation of the light of God to the creation itself and to us. Anything that is not being used for that purpose, Ein Lo Metziut Klal. Therefore, anything that you do or anything that is being used not for the purpose of revealing God's light has basically no existence. It is a mirage. It's an illusion. So everything that, now look at what I'm telling you here, or listen to what I'm telling you, or look at what you have, and look at your actions or anything else that you do. Anything that you have that is not being used and utilized for the purpose of expanding and revealing God's glory to the world is an illusion. It's not real. Because that's not a part of creation. So it's a product of your fantasies, of your imagination. It's not real. It's your virtual reality. It's not reality. And it's a very good way it's a very good indicator to see exactly where you're holding within reality. Everybody wants to say, I'm very in touch with reality. I'm going to tell you, you're not. If you haven't evaluated it, you're not. If you have a car and you're using your car to come to Yeshiva or to go to learn or to do something like this, therefore your car is also a vehicle, becomes a vehicle for the Merkavah of Hashem. It becomes a vehicle for Hashem to be revealed in this world. So the car will have a bracha. If you're using for Dvar Avera, it's nonsense. You are wasting your time. So he says the following, and in anything that exists in this world, there's nitzotz kedusha, a holy spark from the time of Shvirat HaKelim, and that's nitzotz, that spark gives you chayut, gives you livelihood. That's why when you are doing mitzvot, you feel alive. When you're learning Torah, you feel alive. It brings some life to you. I'm telling you, when I come home after I'm here, 10 o'clock at night, most people are tired, they're falling asleep. I cannot sleep. I'm on a spiritual high. I'm feeling so alive. Take Torah from me, I'm going to fall asleep on the sofa like a social security guy. I'm going to start drooling. That's the way it is, Rabotai. Everything that you do, even if it's pulling weeds out of, not to want to smoke, yeah? Pulling weeds from your garden for your tomatoes, if you're going to use that somehow with your great intelligence, when we're very innovative, use that also to bring the lights of Hashem. That is also called Belechet Shamayim. That's also Avodat HaKodesh. Anything that you do to reveal the light of God in the world is Avodat HaKodesh, is a holy task. Not just giving $1,000 for shul and getting an aliyah and feel like a big shot. That's nonsense. Actions will speak. Intent. And we need to remember that. And it says that when Am Yisrael came out of Mitzrayim, right? Which Mitzrayim, of course, was to really take down those sparks who fell deep into the Egyptian mud. It says in Masechet Brachot that after they came out of Mitzrayim was like the ocean with no fish. And that is also something very interesting, Rabotai. Any place that the Jews leave becomes, empty, falls down. Look at history. Look what happened to Spain. Spain kicked out the Jews. Spain wasn't the biggest empire at the time. They kicked the Jews. They went down the garbage. Everyone, Turkey, the Ottomans, for crying out loud, they went from Morocco to Vienna all the way around. They almost entered Vienna, the Turks. The Jews left. Where's Turkey today? Nothing. Zilch. Anywhere in the world. Our job, according to the Gemara, is, according to Tosfot in Masechet Yevamot, is one of the reasons the Jews went to the Galut is to bring about the holy sparks of the neshamot, of the converts, of the Gerim, to come back home. And therefore it's our job, and we need to act in such a way that is going to be mamash kiddush Hashem, so people say, I want to be a Jew, because I cannot even think about a place with no Jews. So as long as also in America, as Jews are going to be free to practice Judaism, America will flourish. The Jews will leave, will go down. So you have a choice. Either make sure the Jews live in freedom or become a Jew, one of the two. Otherwise, I don't know. It's not such a good idea. And Rav Dessler brings us another great message to our avodah, what he calls about the sulam, the ladder. When you go up on the ladder, it says, "Mitakvim kima kima bechol shalav." Don't become all of a sudden super frum and you want to go from eating shrimps and lobsters to all of a sudden being satmar and shav in your head and so. When you go on those spiritual elevation, one step out of the other, you put a leg. I mean, unless you're Jackie Chan, you don't go up and down the ladder, like Speedy Gonzalez like that, right? One step, 1 foot after the other, 1 foot after the other. Your growth needs to be also constant, directed, but with a pace, not running up. You're going to run up the ladder, you're going to fall down. You're going to stay on the ladder for too long, you're going to fall down. Continue going up. That's the remez of the Malachim. So it says, and it's difficult. And you feel a little down, then you put your next foot up, and you keep on going up, and so on and so forth. Until you create one continuous act. And that's called B'chinat Achdut, unification. A motion that is completely directed into one direction. And we always see, and almost done, we always see the Goyim as an obstacle to us, because we always blame for them and so on and so forth. We always blame the Goyim, we blame the Goyim. Because I told you, we don't want to take responsibility for our actions. So we always blame the Goyim. And we always see the difference between Yaakov and Esav as a model for our relationship with the nations. And their relationship to us as well. But let's look, for example, at something else. Let's look at the meeting of Yaakov and Esav, and maybe what we could learn from that meeting. Yaakov and Esav did not meet each other for years. They haven't seen each other for years. And as you know, and maybe there's a little bit of tension between them. And of course, because Esav at the time wanted to kill Yaakov, so of course there's going to be great excitement and maybe some kind of an anxiety. But I'm going to tell you something about anxiety. And then maybe one day we're going to make a shiur about other things. Anxiety, Mr. Psychologist, anxiety is a choice. You could choose to have anxiety, or you can choose not to have anxiety. You don't take Xanax. You deal with it. Xanax doesn't solve your problem. You deal with your anxiety. So, of course, there was an anxiety, and some excitement. And the Pasuk tells us, of course, that immediately when Esav sees Yaakov, he runs to him. Esav runs to Yaakov and he kisses him. So Chachamim give us two different examples about, two different pirushim or explanation about the matter. One hold that he would really feel bad for Yaakov, that he was for so long, he was gone, and he felt bad for him and he really kissed him. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, כי עשה זאת רק מן השפה ולחוץ, ובעצם רצה לנשוך אותו מיד. He wanted to bite him. A different midrash says that, based the story on Rivka, right? That she felt the two goyim running in her stomach, and it says it wasn't really like this. It's not necessarily Yaakov and Esav. It's about two other people. And of course, everybody knows that Yaakov and Esav, really, we know, everybody can say it, Esav, sonel Yaakov, and so on, but maybe that midrash could explain to us something different that really is not the same way as that. And that is the relationship between Rebbe and Antoninus Caesar, Antoninus Caesar. He was the emperor of Rome, and the friendship was they were kind of what we call blood brothers. Their love between them gave great prosperity to both nations, between Rebbe and Antoninus. Yes, absolutely. And it says when Adrianus Caesar, the emperor, made the prohibition to do circumcision on Am Israel, if you would circumcise, because they want to uproot any kind of Jewish identity, whoever saved the baby, which was end up to be Rebbe, right, were the parents of Antoninus. And because of that, there was great closeness between those families. And Rabbi Yehuda and Antoninus, became really good friends. And their friendship became so great, not only between Rebbe and Antoninus, also the families, the Medrash or whatever tells us, that they dug a tunnel between the houses. They dug a tunnel from the house of Emperor of Adrianus. It wasn't an emperor yet. Antoninus, to the house of Rabbi Yehuda, and he used to go every time he wanted to learn Torah from Rabbi Yehuda. He used to go under the tunnel because he didn't want to see the people would see him learning. He used to go learn Torah from Rabbi Yehuda because it was a tremendous chacham, of course. So he wanted to hear that. No, you see, it's a different thing. So, if we're going to look at so you don't necessarily need to look at it like this. So what do we do with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? So what we said before about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is the following. What determines really the relation or the attitude of the nations to us is our behavior. Remember I told you before, is the way we behave. If we do the right thing and if we do good things, he says the following, Hu berachamav machnia et lev son'enu. He, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, would turn the hearts of those who hate us so much, as it says in Sefer Mishlei, Birtzot Hashem darkei ish, gam oivav yashlim ito. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu blesses your actions, He's going to make even your enemies be in peace and harmony with you. So therefore, when the Goyim do things to us, as I told you before, because they also know subconsciously that the fate of humankind is dependent on our actions and our ability to bring about that light to the world. So when we don't do the work, they bang us over our heads. like little drums maybe. But let me tell you, it's not just dressing up like penguins, black and white all the time. It's more than that. It's about the actions that we need to do. It's not about the external. If I put a hat on me or I put a long coat on me, that makes me a better person. It is an internal job that we need to do. We need to bring the light from within out. We need to become the light for the nations. Something that people say, wow, look at these people, they're amazing. And it is a tremendous job. So what we see here, that the relationship between us and the Goyim could be either of great admiration or great hatred, depends on us. Because listen, we have, Antoninus was also a Goy, was also from Esav, and he had no great friends with Rebbe because Rebbe was a tremendous person. And look at all this. I remember when Al Gore came to visit Yeshiva Sha'ar Torah, he spoke with Alav Shalom, Rav Epstein, Alav Shalom, Rav Zelig Epstein, and he was impressed he was really astonished by his greatness. He got an invitation to the White House. He met with the president, I think, given a menorah or something of that sort. When you meet somebody like those people, they were great people. And it's something that we need to understand. And even if you find difficulties in your spiritual growth and so on and so forth, it's very important to understand that you can continue growing. You need to understand that even if you reach great heights in spirituality, great heights in Torah, tremendous, this is not for you, and it's not done to serve you or to praise yourself. It's all done for one thing and one thing only: to remember and to bring about the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to this world, and an acknowledgement, and to make sure that everything turns out to the good. We need to remember there is only one authority, there is only one power, and that's the power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tov u'meitiv lechol beroach. He is good to all his creations, and we are his messengers. That's why we need to be committed to do good, to serve a model, and to stay away from people who are deceiving, who are liars, and are basically obstacles for the light to come out. So Rabotai, we have a lot of work to do. We got a lot to think about. We have to daven Arvit. Shabbat Shalom.